The information provided in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewers should use their own discretion and consult with a healthcare professional for personalized guidance and recommendations. Hello and welcome to the Health Revolution. Join the movement. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, and I'm excited that you are spending time with us today. So, wherever you're tuning in and how you're streaming into the show, we are so glad that you're here. Just remember that underneath where you see our details, where it says show notes, you can find all the information about the contents, the gems that we are going to learn from today. And as always, remember, we are on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's all about engaging conversations, elevating health and wellness, and empowering transformation, all underneath that umbrella of health and wellness. So let's get right into it, because one of the things that we do struggle with as a society, as we're ever evolving, is what this means for our environment. How are we able to take a better step towards living a higher quality of life? So we're diving into that today with my guest today. Her name is Phyllis Marlene Benstein, but everyone knows her as Phyllis Marlene. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Phyllis Marlene has a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering. So she started out as an engineer, and she was previously employed as an engineer for over 25 years. She has created multiple businesses in the beauty, fashion, and network industries. Now, we're going to tie the two together, how she got from engineer to beauty guru. She's a founding leader with the fastest growing global clean beauty and wellness company, and has a history of leadership and training large organizations in and outside of the corporate world, and is an international speaker, in addition to a best-selling author. We're going to talk about that as well. So she educates worldwide about toxic awareness in terms of our immediate environment and then beyond. So she's led professional workshops, keynotes, one-on-one coaching. She does a whole lot. She's a master connector with entrepreneurs and connecting so many small business owners. I've had the opportunity to get to know her over a little over a year now. And without further ado, I've got to bring her on. Phyllis Marlene. Phyllis, how are you today?
I am doing great. How are you, Adriana?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm so glad that we're spending some time together. I know that obviously we've had a connection, and what really struck me was how the space that you represented, the level of confidence that you had. And when I first learned that you had a history of being an engineer, I was fascinated. So tell us, fill in the dots. Tell us a little bit more about you, how you got from back then as an engineer to where you are today.
Well, my roots were always in the beauty and fashion industry, and my dad, he was a mathematician, and he was adamant about me going into the technology field. He actually wanted me to be a mathematician, and you could either be a math teacher or an actuarial, and that just wasn't for me. And so I went to school. I worked 25 years in the industry, and as soon as I got a chance to get out, I did. And so I had a lot of allergies growing up, and I just turned it into a business. I'm all about monetizing your passions, which we'll get into, I'm sure, later. But it's all about how can you take something that you love, something that you know about, something that you're passionate about, you have fun doing, and turn it into your business or your life work.
Yes, and I agree. And I'll tell you, engineering. Our daughter is studying to. She's taking engineering courses in high school, and I'm beyond impressed. What was it like for you as a woman who was in a male-dominated field, even though this was something you felt led to do and persuaded by your dad? But what was it like being a woman and just paving your way as best as you could?
So, I had co-opted in college, and I was given the opportunity at that time to be a digital engineer or be an RF microwave engineer. And they told me, I will never forget this interview. They told me that I could um, be a digital engineer and it was a dime a dozen, or I could become an RF microwave design engineer and really stand out in my field. And the other thing was there were really no women doing that. And so I, of course, chose the RF microwave engineering path. And, you know, my kids call me extra. I've just always loved to stand out rather than blend in. I wear my brand colors now are more hot pink and purple. And so, even when I was in engineering, I made it a point to stand out. And, that's the people that got picked for the promotions. I was always dressed the part, but I always had something about me that was an accessorize or something leopard back in the day that made me stand out. And, the big thing is that as the years went on, when I was doing my engineering, I had 4 kids along the way, and work-life balance began to be an issue. And I wanted to be a pioneer showing women that they could do it all. They could have an executive income, they could raise their kids, have a happy marriage, do whatever. And it became kind of a mission of mine to do that. And, it just carried through my career. And then when I had the opportunity, I gathered this great toolkit. I built my toolbox, let's say, from the day I started in engineering until the day I walked out and retired. I just kept collecting these tools, these skills, interpersonal skills. A lot of engineers don't have interpersonal skills, or learning how to run a meeting, learning how to command a room, learning how to just do everything that I needed to be successful, whether I was working for someone else or working for myself. And it just kind of evolved from there. But I had that passion from the very beginning, and I had a lot of allergies, and I knew the effects of toxins on your body. And so I just kind of pieced it all together over a long amount of time.
Now, I definitely, I know that the toxin is something that toxins in our environment are something that we do need to be, we have to be mindful of. And I definitely want to dive into that. I'm curious, before we do, how did you, so 2 things come to mind. So in that environment, you had to have been a trailblazer, right? And so there weren't a lot of other women engineers or female engineers. Did you have to go into it with the decision of, no matter what, come hell or high water, I will be successful? Or did you learn along the way that you had to grow thick skin, or maybe both?
I knew I had to grow thick skin from the second I walked in that environment. But, you know me, I'm headstrong, I'm confident. And so that really wasn't the issue. Now, there were a lot of women engineers in my company. They just didn't work in what I did. A lot of them were in software. I was an RF microwave design engineer. So, with the help of one of my vice presidents, he mentored me to start a women engineering networking group, in my first few years of being an engineer. And so that was incredible. I mean, that was absolutely incredible to meet the other women in the company. We did collaborations, we did fun stuff, and we did philanthropy.
Wow. So, but in essence, even though there were other women as well, this was something, it was not, you were paving the way as you were going. Would you agree?
I agree. I was definitely paving the way and leading by example. And the other thing was showing other women what's possible.
Yes. Yes. So as you're doing, so you're growing thick skin, you are making a name for yourself. And what kept you staying headstrong in that type of the path, knowing that there was going to be different twists and turns along the way? What kept you headstrong? What helped you cope with the unexpected turns, being a woman in the field?
So the headstrong definitely helped me, and I am very self-motivated and goal-oriented. And I did not want to fail in that position. I was technically sound. The technical part was so easy for me. It was the people part that, started to be an issue. And I don't think they treated, women the same. And, the last day that I left, in talking to some of my coworkers, I found out, and this goes back to 2011, that I was not paid the same amount as my male engineering counterparts. And that was upsetting. And I'm all about women getting paid what they're worth. And so I didn't know what I didn't know. I know we've all heard that phrase before. You don't know what you don't know. And so
True.
I did the regular, standard routine. I went to college. I got a degree. I went to work. I got a great job. I, had some kids. I got the car. It's like the game of life, going
Yeah.
over and over again. And I didn't know what I didn't know until I wasn't happy anymore, until the stress, the toxins, stress is a form of toxins to your body. I had to look for something else because seriously, it wasn't healthy for me. I had, heart palpitations, migraines, backaches, all sorts of problems. And I knew that there had to be a better way, but I just put my nose to the grindstone while that was the only path. But once I determined that, oh my goodness, I could do so many other things, especially if I brought this toolbox with me. And
Yes.
so it just kind of evolved from there. But I stuck it out until I had to. And I also, went through a divorce, and I couldn't afford to leave my job at that point.
It's funny because as you're saying that, and of course, I feel privileged to have known you over a year now, and I didn't realize that we had all that in common in the sense of, now I was not an engineer, however, I do have four
Yes.
kids, and also I went through a divorce as well, so I recognize those challenges. I remember being a single mom and thinking, I just got to somehow make this work because so much is on my shoulders. And so, how determined? What did that look like for you, especially for any of our viewers who are tuning in and are just blown or wowed by the fact that you've had this position, you've been growing, you've been cultivating your career, and then these two life points have happened, these life changes have happened along the way. What were some of the things looking back? How did you stay focused? What were some elements that helped you through the tougher times?
It's really priorities. And my number one priority was my four kids. And so, you have to do what you have to do, and just finding a way to have a release. But I didn't know all the methods I knew that I do now. I didn't know about meditation. I didn't know about walking in nature. I just did the best that I could with what I had. And, it just, that light at the end of the tunnel, especially when I realized that, there's a whole world out there and I could be self-sufficient with outside the four walls of corporate.
Yes, that's true. And I'll tell you, I love how you said priority, and it becomes a sense of urgency for the unexpected. Would you
Right.
say that your gut instinct back then, that you had to trust your gut? Was it something, because you mentioned a few things, certain elements that are part of today and overall health and well-being that we are familiar with, but say
Yeah.
once upon a time, it wasn't something that was so common to talk about or that people tapped into. So
I
would you,
def- I definitely had to trust my gut. But I knew that I was good at, if I didn't like the way something was, I found a new path. I found a new way, or, I designed something to get around that. I just, starting in engineering, when I was in engineering, I co-founded a women's sorority. And, because we didn't like any of the other ones. And so we started our own, the group that I started when I was an engineer. And, finding a way, I started in network marketing. That was my path halfway through my career. That was really my out halfway through. So I could, number one, have an outlet. Number two, get as much business training. I was like a sponge, get as much business training as I possibly could. And, I built my beauty business alongside my engineering career. And I knew I had to look back and say, what else do you need to do to be successful? Where could I get those skills? Where could I make those connections? And,
so, one thing I love what you're saying is that you kept brainstorming, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
With what, if something wasn't currently working, then what else could there be? So it sounds like you left no stone unturned. You at least you looked at all different avenues to see what might work versus concluding beforehand, or maybe just relying on the things that you knew without taking chances. So it sounds like you really were ahead of, say, the times in which a lot of people maybe struggle with doing things that they've not had a whole lot of experience, but it's almost like you're taking a shot, right?
Right. So I'm grateful for my engineering career, because the number one thing that my engineering career taught me was to be a problem solver. And that's what I was doing. I had to work my way out of this box that I wasn't happy with. And so, I still see the world through my engineering filter. I used to help professional women dress for success and for speaking. And to me, it's, there's 7 body types. So it's just a bunch of rectangles and circles. And, it's like just those dolls we used to have, those paper dolls, just, putting together that look with triangles, geometry. And then I did makeup for a while. And again, that's just shading, and it's really just about, maximizing your assets and minimizing your liabilities. But I truly still see the world through my engineering filter.
And you know what I like about that? It's from everything that you're saying. So what I hear is that it was just decisions that are made.
Yes.
Without a whole lot of overthinking, without a whole lot of pondering, of analysis paralysis. Did you feel like back then as a woman, how you navigated through chapters, did you have that or no? Or just that through engineering, you were just taught, well, okay, this is a way to approach something. And so let's just roll with it and then assess later.
I would say I had many episodes of analysis paralysis.
Okay. So you did. Okay.
I did, because, and that's another thing. There's many ways to solve a problem. There's many ways to, get out of the box, but it was trial and error. And, I took a long way around. It was definitely trial and error and ups and downs.
Yes.
And analysis paralysis. But once I figured it out, it was a lot quicker.
Okay.
And that's why I wrote a book about it, to help other people.
Yes, and we're gonna definitely dive into that. Yes. Now, first, we're gonna go ahead and take a commercial break. We will be right back here on The Health Revolution.
Coming this spring, by popular demand, the second season show on the Tour of Love.
The E360 TV platform is saying we want the Tour of Love.
With winner of the first Global Impactor Award, Tamara Hunter, along with Emmy-winning co-host Skip Thomas.
We are going on tour, on the road. It's time. Love unites, and there is healing through connections. This is a worldwide movement, the Tour of Love.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison. Wherever you're tuning in from, please remember to hit the subscribe button if you are streaming on in it, no matter which device you are using. And we've been spending quality time with my guest, Phyllis Marlene, beauty age management specialist. She went from engineer to beauty guru. And we've been talking about her transition and what it meant to live the life of an engineer, have those life transitions, recognize that she is a problem solver. And then, of course, she did mention that she wrote a book, and I'd like to share with you on it. I've got my copy right here, The Journey from Employee to Entrepreneur. And so, Phyllis, tell us a little bit about how you transitioned and then how you got to write this book.
So I spent 25 years in corporate America. About halfway through that career, I realized that I was no longer in alignment with my core values and beliefs. And I did an analysis, and I got to a point where I had to decide what would my life look like in 10 years or 12 years or 15 years if I didn't make a change. And the stress was killing me. I was very, very sick. And I basically went through this process, and I wrote a book about it. And it's a large book. It's about 298 pages of self-help. It's a roadmap for people to start thinking again about what they love doing, how they can help people, and how they can monetize it and turn it into a business. And so it's really just 5 simple steps, but there's a lot of resources and information around it. And so those 5 steps are embracing who you are, empowering your evolution, embarking on a journey of self-discovery and transformation, evolving into your best and highest version of you, and then enlightening others with your gifts and talents, and also starting a business that you can monetize and help others. So it's all about that. And it's also about living, leading, and leaving your legacy.
I love that, the 5 E's and the empowering, the transformation piece, all of that. You know, as you and I had talked a little earlier, I couldn't help but notice the analogy between you sharing with me your history of just being exposed to toxins and how that affected your system.
Yes.
And then you being in a place at work where the environment was not serving you. So many can relate to feeling like work environment is so bad, it's toxic. So tell me how those two connect for you, and bring us up to speed about how you look at toxicity today.
So toxins is a combination of everything. For me, it was the stress of my job. I was in an unhappy marriage, so it was the stress of my relationships. It was the stress of raising. I had 4 kids in 5 years, and I lived to tell about it. And had a bonus son in there also later on. And then coupled with the allergies that I had. And so I was born into a family with a ton of allergies. My mother used to give me my allergy shots. She was a registered nurse. And we were really careful about what we ate. And I learned to be a label reader. Oh my goodness. Way back then. And we ate healthy, but we didn't really, I don't think she got the whole picture of the toxins that are out there, because it's the cleaning fluids. I can only use clean, non-toxic cleaning fluids, or else I get a mottled rash from head to toe because somehow it gets into my bloodstream and my skin. So your skin is your biggest organ. And I just really put it all together, and I started to study the effects of toxins on our body. It relates to, simple things that people don't think could be related to toxins. And the other thing is most people have been introduced to like 20 or more toxins by the time they leave the house in the morning, maybe more. And most people don't realize the effect unless it gets cumulative. No, now for me, I get an anaphylactic shock being the worst, a migraine, or a rash all over my body. So I know, so I know right away if I've had a toxin introduced into my system.
So
But
that's huge. Did you have, so as you were growing up, did doctors ever say anything to, do you ever remember having a conversation with doctors about that? Was it ever, did it ever come up? If it didn't come up for, say, like your mom as an issue to address back then, at any point in time, did it ever come up in conversation about your health?
it did about the toxins, yes, because it wasn't, I had food allergies. I have food allergies, environmental allergies, and the anaphylactic shock is the worst one that I got to be careful of. But it's, it's all about reading the labels, but it also, I need to know when I go out what my triggers are. And so the long-term effects that most people, if they don't get the immediate reaction that I get, some of the issues are longer healing times, chronic illness and disease, headaches, fogginess, those things that people don't realize that they could be related to toxin, blood poisoning, blood toxicity. And a lot of it can be helped by going to healthier products and taking in, we buy organic food now. We know what they're adding into the food, and why your apples are shiny because they're coated in wax, and to make them look good. So it took a long time to do that research, but I feel better and better. As time goes on, I feel a lot better.
How, so was that were your discoveries, were they something that did you feel like it was more the tying into the, the environment allergies, the food allergies at the point in which you connected everything together? Did you know that what you needed to do was a path that pursued being able to be on this path and be a specialist in this regard?
I did not.
Okay.
That was not on my radar until I got introduced to the company I'm with now, Monate Global, and I have used that shampoo company to be a vehicle for me to educate worldwide about toxins. Because, with the internet and online and everything else, I can meet people in person, but I can also talk halfway around the world, educating people about the effects of toxins on their body. So no, I had no idea until I joined this company, and I did even more research that this was a problem.
So as you're having conversations with others and say, as you're getting to know people for the first time and they share a little bit about them, about themselves, what are some things that you notice that that people are struggling with? Like now that you've done a deeper dive into toxicity, and that there's a much more of a global concern, that it's much more of an outreach situation than say some like to believe. What do you notice about our environment around us, like with specifics, maybe things that you that someone doesn't automatically pick up, but that you're able to point out and highlight?
Well, I think there's been a shift, especially since the pandemic, where people are more conscious of toxins and wanting to be clean because they're scared. And I think that was a big step in people waking up and realizing that toxins are everywhere. And so for me, it's just talking to people, and it's making them aware of the things they probably didn't think of, like the shampoo. People don't know that whatever they wash your hair with goes into your bloodstream in just 26 seconds or less. So what are the ingredients in your shampoo? Whatever you rub all over your body, 40 to 60% or more is absorbed into your body. So I have a doula on my team. She always educates that babies are being born with over 200 extra toxins in their cord blood. And so it's pointing out things that people might not realize, that there's an easy, what I call, fix for. For every toxic product out there, there are a lot of clean, healthy products out there.
So the type of realistic transition it takes for, say, someone to completely revamp their home environment, how much of an uphill battle does it become, or maybe not, if they change their home environment, but then they're going out into the world and they're interacting with people and they're going to places where maybe it's not the same, if they go into a public place or a restaurant or maybe their work environment? How much of an uphill battle is it to establish your home as toxin free as possible, but then you're encountering areas where that's not the case?
It is an uphill battle, but it starts with what you can control. In anything we do, it starts with what you control, and there's certain things that you can't control. So the first thing is education and awareness. I'm working on a checklist for people so they can go through everything and see where there may be toxins. And I have a hairstylist on my team that is a cancer survivor, an ovarian cancer survivor, and she's had 3 salons or more in 30 years of doing hair. And her oncologist said, you absolutely got it from the quote unquote safe salon products, because they're not. And so ever since then, I've been on a mission, since I've been in the shampoo company, to raise the awareness and clean up the salons, because we all have a choice to make. And so it first starts with changing or being aware of the things that you can't control. But let's say a salon, when you go into a salon that's doing processes to the hair, like straightening, etc., those give off formaldehyde when you heat the air up to, when you heat the hair, not the air, up to 450 degrees. And so if you look over at the person that's doing your processing, she's got her PPE on, her personal protection equipment. She's got gloves on. She's got a mask on. And you are sitting there, and all the other people in the salon are sitting there breathing secondhand gases. And so it's really awareness and making the choices and knowing what questions to ask before you go to a place. So I have a severe allergy to cigarette smoke, and I just avoid it. I don't go into restaurants or states where they allow smoking, because I'm going to end up with a migraine. And it's usually when I'm traveling. So it's really doing some research. It's really picking the places, the products, and as you were saying, it's a total detox. So you're like the 5 people you hang around with most. For me, it was a total detox. I detoxed my marriage, I detoxed my relationships, I detoxed my work environment, and then I had already started on the food and product part of it. Some of the environmental things you can't change, but there's a lot you can.
So I like the transition, how you said that you detoxify different areas of your life, not just chemically speaking, but metaphorically speaking, different, the things that impact us the most would be relationships and such. So just if we can touch on that, what gave you the courage to step away from areas, environments that didn't serve you? So now I'm speaking more metaphorically than anything else. What was the deciding factor versus just not deciding before you made the decision?
You know what? Like, to tie it all back to what we talked about before, it was a gut feeling. I was very sick. And I had so many issues, and I knew there had to be a better way. I knew that I couldn't live the way I was living. The stress and the toxins were building up in my system at a very, very high rate and a fast rate. And so I just really made a decision that that I deserved more, that I had the confidence to take a different path. You know, my parents were alive when I made the decision to go into beauty. They thought I was nuts, you know, because they said they were going to pay for my engineering degree. That was my first bubble popper. No, I ended up paying for my engineering degree. And
Yes.
And only I can take care of me. I really don't think I would have been here if I had been down that path. And at some point, you have to get sick and tired. That's the best thing. You have to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And you have to want to make a change. And, you know, over those 12 years, which I've lessened in the book, you know, there's signs that you're burnt out. I mean, that's another big thing. Burnout is a huge stress and sickness issue.
You know, and I wonder if sometimes we get the message in society that we're just supposed to stick it out because that's what we do, or that, you know, the majority of people don't make huge changes that seem disruptive. Do you find that when you talk to other women, even today, do you notice that many more are on board with trusting gut, or is it just still story developing?
No, I think in this day and age, they follow their gut. And this is kind of funny. Okay. So I tried to be the best mom that I could be. And people they will punch holes in anything you're doing if they feel like it, you know, the Karens and everything else. My friends couldn't believe that I made my kids do their own laundry and make their own lunches. Well, you know what? My kids are very self-sufficient now, and they grew up to be successful, self-sufficient adults. And
Yes.
The thing that brought light to how hard women work and the stresses and everything was one of my favorite movies, Bad Moms, because Bad Moms with, you know, Mila Kunis and whoever, that movie showed that it's okay to buy a Happy Meal for your kids and send them to work, you know, because if we can't put the oxygen on ourselves first and help ourselves, we're not going to be able to help them. And so, it all just kind of added up. But women will always say, especially women, you know, they will say things either way. Some will be cheering you on and say, oh my goodness, I can't believe you did that and you broke through that and you did that. And the other ones will be, you know, the naysayers, like, I can't believe you did that. Why didn't you take the non-risky path? And, you know, it was a struggle. I mean, it's always going to be that way.
Yeah, the path of least resistance. Yeah, no.
Not me.
Yeah.
No.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to be right back here on the Health Revolution.
All right.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been showing that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
Share this with your friends and family and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a buddies network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
We're back here on the Health Revolution. We are spending some much quality time with my guest, Phyllis Marlene, engineer turned beauty age management specialist. And this is a perfect time to talk a little bit about something that is in your book. And I just want to, again, for our viewers to highlight the journey from employee to entrepreneur. In chapter 4, out of your 5 steps to your freedom, you talk about evolve. And I just want to read a quick excerpt from this where it says, the concept of evolving with a quantum mind shift is one of self-transformation, driven by a desire to navigate life at a higher level of awareness. A quantum mind shift involves spiritual, subconscious energy and physical transformation that leads to a deeper understanding of the work that lies beyond the bounds of the physical world. It is a shift in perception of life and reality on a deep intrinsic level that requires you to look at life in a new way. I thought that was incredibly powerful. And talk about the evolvement of say women today and how you continue to be a connector.
I love being a connector. So I think women are natural connectors, but I went from work, I was working in a lab and I talked to nobody. And how I got into networking was, number one, I formed that women engineering group to evolve, first step. Then my girlfriend and I went to a local networking event after work one day, after being near nobody. I hadn't talked to anybody that day probably. And we went to a women's networking group. We had a cocktail, we had some dinner, we just got to know each other. And I ended up joining that group. And that was an eye-opener to me, that people connect like that. They share information. And my evolution was huge, going from a job that didn't require me to talk at first, then I got promoted a lot. So I went, because I've always had the ability to take complex problems and even talk to the lowest, employee or whoever. And so that was an evolution for me, every step of the way. But I'm into networking since that very first networking event that I went to. I go, this is really cool. You listen to someone, you see how you can best serve them. And I just fell in love with it. And I turned it into my last business that I did, networking. And so I still attend a lot of networking events, but I have the networking division of Achieve Business Systems called Connect and Collaborate. And that is just an amazing opportunity for entrepreneurs and small business owners to speak, sponsor, attend, or even own their own chapter. And so it's a way for them to be a leader, to get practice out there in the community. And that's what I truly love. Most people know me as a master connector. I know a lot of people. I've been around the block a few times. I've been in corporate. I've been out on my own, and I meet a lot of people along the way. And so who can I connect you to? That's part of who I am. I just love connecting people to resources, either resources through Achieve and my networking group, or, what products and services can I help you get visibility on? Who needs what you have to offer? And so it has been an evolution. And like I was saying, what problems can you solve for people? I found a niche in connecting people. And I also have a networking certification where you can become a master networker. So again, I developed things that I love doing. I saw a need that people had, and I turned it into a business.
I think that's so profound because, and you're right about the evolution, the continuously evolving and transforming as you're going along. So that means that it can be unpredictable or it can be very serendipitous,
Right.
leading to some really cool outcomes from say where we are. And you know what I find fascinating, and I feel like since COVID, we really, just society in general has pushed us, has thrusted us into this decision where we can choose to remain the same, and but the outcomes may not be the way that we want, but we're familiar with comfort, or we can just take chances and continue to evolving into a level of something maybe we weren't before. So I love how it's that shift that you write in your book, and it's almost like when you say it, what I love about how you are sharing where you're at is this profound transformation of this confidence of you've got it, you're certain of your decision, your problem solving, and it's all going to integrate. It's going to evolve in a way that it's going to turn out great. Would you agree?
I agree. And I'm a servant leader too. So again, I'm always looking to help somebody because that's the engineer problem solver in me. But now it's not, I can help people with their non-toxic hair care, skincare, wellness. I can help them with education. I can help them with awareness. I can help them with resources to build, grow, develop, scale their business. And then I can help them with connections. And actually that book is about helping people with an exit strategy. And then I've got endless lead generation through networking and the art of connecting.
And I love when you say from employee to entrepreneur, because there has to be things are, when I look at that transition from that role to entrepreneur, it's new territory initially, but then you in some ways you do show up like how an employee shows up, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And it does take a mind shift. And, there were ups and downs in getting out of corporate America. Well, there's ups and downs in being an entrepreneur and a small business owner. There are absolutely things that you have to have a mindset that you're going to push through it. Again, it's keeping the goal of your bottom line out there. It's what do you want to do with your business? How many people do you want to serve? It all ties in together.
Yes, I love that. We're going to take a quick short break. We're going to be right back here on the Health Revolution.
Jeff Pearson here, host of Invisible Condition, where we talk about all the people who are living and thriving with all those conditions that you can't necessarily see from the outside. Join me every Tuesday and Friday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time on E360 TV.
We're back here on the Health Revolution. We've been spending quality time with Phyllis Marlene, engineer turned beauty guru, or I should say beauty age management specialist. And you've shared a whole bunch of nuggets, especially the encouragement of a woman who's choosing to transition from how things were to really detoxifying your life metaphorically, but then also physiologically speaking. Let's go ahead and let's bring up we're going to put up your website here for anyone who is interested in getting in contact with you, and share a little bit about what you have to offer.
So this is my complete website. I've got everything from my clean products on there. You can book an appointment with me. You can go to the Connect and Collaborate page. You can find out about all the virtual and live networking events that are available, and opportunities to own your own chapter, to speak, sponsor, and attend. And there's also my networking certification on that page. And of course, my book is available on there as well.
I do love the fact that that this is a read that I'm going through right now, and I'm finding it fascinating. Living Your Life by Design. Where can they, in addition to that, are viewers able to tune in and get your book in other places as well? Is it available on Amazon, all the other places where people would get their books?
Yes, the link is available on phyllismarlene.com, or you can simply go to Amazon and type in under books, The Journey from Employee to Entrepreneur.
And do you have anything coming up in the horizon as we're looking into 2024? Things that are coming up that would be important to keep in mind for anyone who is leaning into all that you're saying and loving your message?
So I will be having some events, and I will be doing some more with Achieve Business Systems to get those conferences out there, and just more opportunities for entrepreneurs. We'll be doing some extra training for the networking and just helping people make those connections. Don't waste their time networking with a purpose. That's my whole thing, is networking with a purpose. So stay tuned for some big things. And I do have a networking book coming out that I co-authored with the head of Achieve, Robert Raymond. So that will be coming out in the fall. And that's an incredible networking book.
So obviously for viewers tuning in, that your website's going to have updated information as we move forward. Yes.
Yes. And I'm looking forward to speaking as well. So, I would love to get in front of, organizations that are looking for a path. And, one thing I just want to mention about the book is it's not just about going from employee to entrepreneur. There's a lot of people that work like I did for 25 years, and they may not want to take that leap, but they can create a side hustle. They can connect with their core values and beliefs, and again, figure out something that they could monetize and start a side hustle business. So that book also helps with that.
So everyone tuning in, this is a book that you want to get your hands on if she is speaking your language, which I'm sure many of you are. We are just about out of time. Real quickly, we want to put up our website. So for anyone who is tuning into the show and you're interested in getting upcoming information, you can always tune into thehealthrevolutiontv.com. And of course, you can subscribe to our newsletter, stay up to date with shows. You can add input, feedback, topics that you would love to see on here. And Phyllis, I'm so glad to connect with you here. And it's always, I've come to know you, and you are such a wealth of information. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And for everyone else who's tuning in, we appreciate you being here. Remember that The Health Revolution is on the Achieve TV channel on E360 TV, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hit the subscribe button in any of the channels or the streams that you are tuning into. Until next time, take care. See you soon.